Socrates is thought of in two ways. One is quite systematic. He's asking about the good life. He thinks that we can come up with criteria for understanding the virtues. And in that sense, he's the inspiration of his good friend Plato, who started something like a school, not exactly what we call a school, but something like a school on the grounds of a gymnasium called the Academy. But Socrates was also seen in other terms, and he sometimes dramatized himself in those other terms, as a gadfly, as someone skeptical of convention. And that part doesn't go over into the Platonic Academy. It's the inspiration for a different kind of Socratic thinker, most famously in the ancient world, the one we call Diogenes the Cynic, Diogenes of Sinope, whom Plato described as Socrates gone mad. That's the image of the philosopher as the countercultural figure, the one who doesn't fit, the one who doesn't dress normally, the highly eccentric figure that there are anecdotes about, the one given to comments off the cuff more than to systematic philosophies. And it's interesting to me that this very charismatic figure of Socrates should have produced both of these Socratic types. It's a little anachronistic to say Plato was a professional philosopher, but it's only a little anachronistic. So from one side we get systematic philosophizing that wants to come up with real theories of life and theories of language, theories of knowledge. And on the other side, we get the bit that doesn't fit. Diogenes the Cynic and the Cynic tradition after him. Now, it's interesting, there was a recent book by a German scholar, Paul Zanker, that shows images, sculptural images, drawings, paintings, but mostly sculptures from the ancient world of different kinds of intellectuals. And for philosophers, Zanker says, there were two types. There was the philosophical gentleman who looked like Plato and had a well-trimmed beard and wore the right kind of himation or cloak. And then there was the scraggly bearded cynic like Diogenes who never went to the gym or combed his hair.
And where do you fit in, Nick?
Yes, well, I'm only here to describe the two types. Maybe everyone who's the professional type harbors fantasies of being the marginal type. I feel like I'm sounding a little pompous. Maybe I'm just modulating my voice too much. I like how professional actors, they know when a different camera comes on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like in the soaps, they turn.
In the soaps?
Yeah, that's
Watch
right.
soaps?
Not really. I know what they're like.
Well, maybe we need more philosophers in the quote-unquote soaps.
That wouldn't play very well, but Plato knew that. Plato knew you can't bring a virtuous person on stage. It doesn't quite work.
They're dull, unfortunately. But
well, an actor friend of mine.
Or they die.
That's the most exciting thing they can do.
Yeah.
What Plato understood about drama, that it's very hard to have a very good character who's also interesting.
But it seems that he was quite disruptive.
Socrates was disruptive in reality. Of course, in one letter that he might have written, that Plato might have written, maybe didn't, he said, Socrates is in all my works, but he is a Socrates that I made young and beautiful. So by the time we encounter Socrates in the works of Plato, he might be more presentable than he was in real life. We get a different view of Socrates in The Clouds, a comedy by Aristophanes. But there, Aristophanes is clearly out to create a burlesque, so we can't trust that either. But I do think Plato has cleaned the man up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I guess he's kind of one of those figures, a little like old Jesus himself.
The comparison has been made. The
Yeah.
execution kind of cements the resemblance, and it is true in both cases that you have figures who are not exactly teachers, but whose associates become something like teachers or founders of schools.
Right. So are you founding a school?
No, that was in the ancient world. We don't do that anymore.